Hi guys, today I want to show you how I make my bread recipe. We have got a cup of water, we have got butter, coconut flour, flax powder, chia seeds, salt, eggs and bicarbonate of soda. The first thing that you have to do is melt the butter in the water. Now, to try and measure 3/4 of a cup of butter is just about impossible. So to make it easy on you, I'm going to show you how here, when you have a full block of butter, half of that full block is 250 mils. That is a cup. So if you half that, you'll have a 1/4 cup. And if you half it again, you'll have 3/4. So that is an easy way to find your 3/4 mark, to cut your butter, and then you've got a 3/4 cup of butter to go into your recipe. It is just so much easier than to try and measure it like you would normally. I'm going to add the butter and the water into the small pan where it's going to be warmed, and then I'll be back with you. Here we've got the butter and the water in the little pot. The pot I have on my stove on 4 is the heat. Now what we want to do is you want to wait for this to heat up nicely. The butter has got to melt before it starts boiling. So keep an eye on it and just make sure that your butter is actually melted. I actually cut it up a little bit just to help it melt a bit easier. The water and the butter is on the stove now. Now what we do is we need 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. Put it into your little coffee grinder and grind it until it's nice and fine. The chia seeds are nice and fine. So what we need is a cup, 3/4 cup of coconut flour. You might want to rather sift it to make sure you don't sit with lumps like this. So it's a 3/4 cup of coconut flour, 3/4 cup of flax powder, flax seed powder. Again, you might want to just sift it so that it's nice and fluffy. And then of course the 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. With that we add the salt, which is a teaspoon of salt. Just add it in there. Right, now we need to mix this really well. You want those chia seeds mixed in there as well as you possibly can. That will be your glue. That's what's going to stick this whole lot together. I'm going to come back to you just now. I'm just going to sift this and make sure it's well mixed. Here's the dry ingredients mixed well. It almost looks like a brown bread mix, and you can't see any lumps or anything like that. So yeah, this now goes into our wet ingredients as soon as the water has started boiling. Okay, here we can now see how the butter is melting. Just swirl your pot to help it a little bit. It helps to loosen it, helps to melt the butter. Now as soon as this water starts boiling, it's ready, and we'll add the dry ingredients. Okay, the water is boiling now. Now we're going to add the dry ingredients into it. Just take it off the stove. Pour the dry ingredients in, start stirring. On the heat, off the heat, keep stirring. On the heat, off the heat. Now we have to time a minute and keep stirring it. You'll see it starts becoming a dough ball. Just keep going, mix, mix, and you go like that for about a minute. Now what happens is your chia seeds are kind of cooking, your butter stays melted, and you can actually stir this. And that goes on for about a minute. On the stove, off the stove. Now that your dough has been cooked, kind of, we're going to just put it into a mixing bowl, and it's going to stay there for about 5 minutes to cool down. The next step is adding the egg and bicarb, and then it gets whisked. I'll show you how to do that. Alright, now that the dough is a little bit cooler, we don't want it ice cold because the butter will just solidify. We're going to add our egg straight into it. It's 3 eggs. The original recipe calls for only 2. I find that 3 eggs works a whole lot better. Also, your teaspoon of bicarb goes in, and we whisk this up. See, it's getting thicker now, and it likes to run up the blades. Just lift your mixer up a bit, it'll let go again. Do that for about a minute. Now that it's all mixed up, we gather it. My little trick is not to use the coconut flour like the recipe says. I use olive oil, rub my hands with it, rub the cling wrap with it. Yeah, it lands up all over the place. A little bit more oil. That just puts a barrier between you and the dough so it doesn't stick to you. We get the dough out of the dish, quickly form a ball with it and get it covered in the cling wrap. Now this ball is going into the deep freezer for 5 to 10 minutes. You want the butter to start solidifying. So I will come back, turn on the oven, and I'll come back when this is cold. Okay, now we have our cooled down dough. I had it in the deep freezer for about 10 minutes. Now we're going to half this because I'm only going to bake half of it today. I'm going to cover the breadboard with olive oil. This is an experiment, never done it before, but I can't stand the cling wrap anymore. So getting our dough ready here, adding olive oil to the hands so it doesn't stick to my hands, to the breadboard so it doesn't stick to the breadboard, maybe just a little more than that. So break this in half. There we go. And then you basically form it the way that you want it. I am just going to simply make a log type thing. Hot dog bun type ready thingy. Now remember, these things do not taste like ordinary bread in the shop. Some of them are actually very, very good. This one's quite delicious. I use it for dunking in soup, bread with my lasagna. There are so many things you can use this with. You don't need an actual loaf of bread. I'm going to put this into my pan and then I'll come back to you. Now we have our bread in the little pan. This is the leftover dough. I'm just going to close it up and it's going to be in the fridge. Tomorrow I'll bake it and make something else. So it's not being wasted, but it is there if you need it. Now what we do is we're simply going to just spread some whisked egg over the bread. This is to crisp up the edges. We add a bit of extra salt to it. That's quite delicious actually. Okay, extra salt and some sesame seeds on top. As much as you want. There really is no standard method or standard amount, as much as you like. I'm just going to try and find my knife and I'll show you what I do from here. Just to be fancy, I like to make little slits in it. Just cover your knife with a bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick, and just press it down like that. Just press it. Now you've got a very nice little shop-made bread going on here. You can even add just a little bit extra egg on top, just so it goes into those slits as well. Then it goes into the oven. I'm going to put it in the oven and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. So we've taken our bread out of the oven and I'm going to cut it so you can see what it looks like on the inside. So there you have it, your own Banting bread. If you cut it like that, you've got lovely little sticks to dunk into your soup, or even just to spread some pate on it, or some butter, whatever you like. It is not meant to be a sandwich bread. It's not meant to be the main course. It is not the main course. It's merely an add-on, or if you absolutely have to have some bread. This is quite delicious. Let me know what you think, and please try this. It is worth giving it a go.